Hello dear channel, welcome to this new video. My name is Damien Rohrbach. Today Blender 3.2. Great, now let's start designing a chain. So let's hide the medallion and let's start adding a mesh torus. Let's do 80 major segments, 40 minors. Let's go at, this size is good. Okay, here, and don't forget to smooth and set the material. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees and 45 degrees. Let's center everybody to 0 here. Don't forget to save from time to time. Great, now let's add a mirror modifier. Let's choose from the chain bale here. Okay. Now let's do a Shift D on X. And let's try to find a position that could... Okay, so all alone it won't work. Let's make a Shift D, Alt C, and move the copy made solid like this. And let's come somewhere here and a bit smaller. And we're going to make another mirror with this design, this X cross design based on the chain bale here. Okay, and we're going to move it in such a way that it closes. Let's do an SZ for a better proportion, and let's see SX to make it join in a prettier way right here. I don't like the general Z scale, SZ. I want it somehow rounder. This should be pretty fine. Okay, now we're going to add a sphere to keep the same spirit as the medallion. Remember, the medallion has some spheres here and there. Let's go to 0. Let's come this way. A bit to the outside, shade smooth. Let's go with a mirror. So this mirror from this. Okay, this one has rotation, so that won't help. Let's try these ones. Y on Z. They also have rotation. So I'm going to create a cube. At the center, 0. Let's make it pretty small. And this is called a centering cube. Great, so it's going to be from the centering cube on the y-axis. Let's Shift D here, maybe this one smaller. The z-axis like this. Let's have a solid view. Yes, okay, so far so good. Now we're going to create from the side view a circle, mesh circle. Yes. To the view, let's go to 80 vertices, and let's center the circle. Let's move it a bit to the outside already. Edit mode, scale. Let's go to the outside first. Okay. So let's do an extrusion, E and S for scaling. Make this pretty more solid. Okay, let's do an A. Now let's do an extrusion on the x-axis like this. We should be pretty fine with this. Okay, for this part, now let's subdivide here 3 times. Alt Z, Alt A, B. Now this we're going to scale down like this some. Okay, now I'm going to let's do an Alt A, I'm going to select this circle all around like this. Let's make a copy and let's make it a bit smaller. Let's do an F. This is going to be a new set, a solid, extrude, extrude, scale, extrude, scale, extrude, scale, and once more, extrude and scale. Okay, this could have been a sphere, but the proportion is a bit different. Okay, now let's do an L, S, Y. Okay, so what I'm going to do is move this out this way. Alt Z, Alt A, seam, extrude, smaller, extrude, much smaller, extrude, not that far, and pretty much smaller. Alt A, L, Alt A, L to select the element, Alt Z, and let's bring it here. Okay, Alt A, let's move it somewhere here. Now this element, I like it round, but I want it a bit smaller. Let's make it fit inside this decoration here. Alt A, L. Let's put this somewhere here. Let's make this a bit smaller. Also, this is pretty nice. Okay, let's do a P selection. And this element is going to get some subdivisions. Let's go at 3. Object smooth. Let's make it bronze. Let's make a mirror from the centering cube like this. So this friend also is going to be bronze. Right here, let's add some bevel. Not that strong, 0.2. We'll see. Well, you decide how smooth you want this element. Let's go shade smooth. Check the normals to auto smooth. So if your cat is hiding the screen, widen the screen so you can read the parameters. Now let's have a look at subdivisions. Yes, my cat is really hiding almost the entire screen. Of course not, she's not that big. Gonna do a 0, 1. Okay, I'm saying like that. 0, 0, 5. But she's specifically hiding the settings on the right side of the screen. She's there staring at me because she wants to play. Okay, anyway, we'll find a way to move forward. Okay, let's make a mirror from the centering cube. Okay, so this is an element, obviously. So this is for a chain. Let me see this bigger. We're going to make a hole in this element, but let's try the proportions. These are decorative elements participating in the rhythm of the design. Thing is, do I like? No, I don't like. Let's make it flat shading. This is a bit better. Okay, this can come out a bit more. Okay. So let's try also ASC. I haven't decided yet if the element, I think I prefer the element coming out, but here I need something. Okay, let's create a mesh cylinder with a vertices to the view. Let's make it smaller, but wider. Let's make it wider, SY. Now front view, let's go at 0. Let's come back here. Bit smaller, I guess. SZ. Okay. This is good for now. So this is going to get the Boolean. Let's see what happens with the Boolean at the start. Fast difference right here. Okay, this is good now. H. Well, let's select it again. Cylinder, please. Takes a couple of seconds. Okay. So let's make maybe the Boolean after the subdivision. Okay, pretty good. Yeah, I think I like it. I like it like this. Now, maybe a bit more narrow. Yes, why? This should be pretty good. It's a good 0.6 right here. Okay, so this is a first element. Now this, let's do an Alt-C to go to mesh, because Alt-L, R, X, this one must rotate 90 degrees, because these are elements of a chain, so we must be able to create a repetitive array and pattern for the entire chain, for the entire neck, because it's a chain for the neck. It's not a bracelet, it's a necklace. Okay, now let's have a look at, okay, I have some idea here. Let's take this sphere. Let's remove the mirror. Let's center the sphere. Move it here. Make it smaller. Now this, let's put it at 1 on X and 1 also for the sphere. Okay, this is not center as origin. Origin to geometry. Okay, so we can copy and paste the X position like this. Now let's move this up and let's see what happens. Okay, here let's do Control S, cursor to selected, add empty plane axis. Now this is going to go on an array, and I think we'll have to also put the origin of the sphere to the 3D cursor. Okay, now the array, let's put 8, but it's going to be around the empty element right here. Now let's start rotating this on X, and obviously the position and scale are affecting everything. But anyway, let's put our X 45 degrees for the empty. Okay, with the spheres, okay, the sphere, Control A, scale, and okay, it's starting to work properly. It's a bit too big still. So here, let's go to edit mode to make the scaling like this, maybe a bit smaller, and let's move it a bit more on the inside, but then a bit bigger. Okay, I'm starting to like it, but I want more spheres. I want 16, I think. So the empty is going to go at 22.5. Okay, this is pretty neat. Just adding a decoration. So mirror from the centric cube. Okay. This is a pretty nice chain element for the adventurer's medallion. It goes very much into the style, the design, aesthetic of the medallion. Okay, this is very important. I think I want an other element for joining these elements. Okay, so here we have all this. Okay, and these are, all of this is an element. So let's make a Shift D, Alt C, Control J, and this, and let's call this one a chain. And let's call this one chain element 1. Okay, now let's hide all the rest. H, remove from rendering. Okay, great. Now I'm just going to add an array modifier. Let's put some 10. Let's make a Control A, all transforms. Okay, so I could use only this element to create a chain, but this element is too big and too heavy to be repeating itself over and over without alternating with another element. All right, so we are going to design another element. So here, let's go just at 3, and let's start. Let's have distance 1, 1 maybe. Okay, so the next element, let's create a torus. Okay, let's make it smaller, at 0.6. And it's too fat. Let's go at 0.35 maybe. And also 0.6 here. Too fat is here, 0.15. Okay, this is pretty good. But now with this, we need to go back here, Alt A, L, and I'm going to reset this one to the same axis because it will be alternating with this new element here. So this element here is going to be bigger because if you look at the Z dimension, you have 0.4. In real life, this is already too small. I need this to be thicker, okay? And so this one, by the way. So let's make AS. Let's start making this element bigger. Let's remove the array to see the real dimension here. We're going to go at 8 millimeters. So let's copy to all the other scales like this. Now let's go back to the array and let's make a Control A, all transforms. Let's put more distance. Okay, now this element, let's try to center this somehow. Okay, so on the x-axis, I'm looking at the squares. I don't need it perfectly centered. It's just to have a better view for designing this element. Okay, so here we're going to go with this bigger, but then edit SX. I want it to be not fully round. Okay, now let's have a look at, let's take this vertex and this vertex. With Shift, let's go to proportional editing and let's do an S. Okay. Let's set the material to bronze. So let's make a new one. Torus. This torus is still too small. Let's make it 1.5, 175. Okay, this is going to be pretty good. Let's make this bigger and this smaller on the Z-axis. Okay, let's center this as Z. Okay, I want to double the border. Okay, but now Well, this is going to be bronze. I want it thicker, so let's use the solidify modifier to go offset 1.05. Still can't absorb the entire inside of this. So we might come here. Let's take these. The same on each side, or almost the same to keep the symmetry. And let's do an SY. With the circle smaller, so we don't affect the outside shape, if possible. SX, also, if possible. Okay. This should be enough. Let's see the deformations we got. Okay, this is pretty good. Now we still want this a bit bigger because it's not properly fitting between the elements. SC also. Okay, so here, well, I need to go thicker. Let's go at point. Okay, let's go at 1. Let's go at 1 here on the z-axis. So this means that this and that must be bigger. Okay, so let's try to make them bigger from here. Okay, so let's remove the proportional editing and let's start scaling. Okay, so let's do an L, delete this element. LP selection because we need to work this out differently. Okay, edit mode, SX. That changes a lot, obviously. The behavior of, let's adapt. Okay, we have this. This is a bit better. But here, this is the thickness. Let's go to 1 also. And now, let's remove the array of this element. Put a mirror again. I think I'm even going to go to 131. And let's adapt to this border here. Okay, something like this. Perfect. So now these elements are going to move here. You can come here and see where you're touching or not. GX. Okay, here at the corner, it's starting to touch already. SX. It's not always easy to spot where it's already touching. Okay, this element, I'll see, go back with the rest of the element, and let's find the factor again here. 1, 3, 2, 135 maybe here. Let's do an Alt C, edit mode. Now here we're going to select the center, these vertices here, the center side vertices, okay? And only the outside ones. So let's remove these with Shift on the selected circle. Okay, let's remove these. I just want specifically the 2 outside vertices. Let's turn on the proportional editing. Let's save SY. Okay, here, let's go at solid view. SY. So we can play with this deformation to create a decoration and a more interesting element. So let's see. Okay, I'm starting to like this a lot. Between the first element, creating a better rhythm. But guess what? We very probably need a mesh sphere. Bronze sphere. Smooth. Okay, so where can we add spheres in a fashionable manner? Mirror from that element X and Y. Okay, this seems pretty interesting. Let's do a Shift D and a Shift D. Okay, so this one won't have mirror on the X position. Let's copy paste the X position right here. Okay, starting to be pretty. Now this Shift G, let's move it up. So on the Z axis, let's go to edit mode, S, and let's position this somewhere here. It's interesting, but you must have a congruency in your style, the overall look of the design. Let's try, instead of those, Alt A, let's try again the centered one, but on the other axis. So here, SZ. And maybe, okay, you get this element there. Also because okay, this is great. Let's try an SX. Okay, it's interesting. I think I prefer the short version, this one. This is it. This is it. And here we are going to take all these elements prior to adjusting the distances to create the chain. Okay, so all of this and this one, make a Shift D, enter, Alt C, Control J, element chain 2. Okay. Now all the rest here, let's do an H. Let's remove it from rendering. Okay. So far, so good. We need to adapt the distances between the chain loops elements to make the chain longer. Okay. So I'm going to come here, edit mode, A, and let's adapt GX. Okay, so have a look at which corner or which part or vertex is touching first, and then I give it just a slight distance, because in real life that's what happens. So you can do the elements separately, okay, or you can take that one to that one and make a Control J. Now obviously we need to readapt the distance here. Okay, and let's replicate this. We don't know yet. Let's go at 20. Okay, so this chain is also ready for 3D printing. Like in almost all of my tutorials, I create designs that can be manufactured. You should know that if you know my channel, if you know my videos. And this is done this way. You print this element and you print this element. Then each element is casted and molds are created for each separated elements. You replicate them 40 times, 50 times, 200 times. All the times you need to make the chain, and this is it. That's how you manufacture chain in real life. It's very similar to making the chain in 3D. That's why being a jeweler and a jewelry maker, manufacturer is always very important before making 3D designs. You'll live a happier life if you're a jeweler first and then you use 3D softwares.